Commissioner Keating?
Here.
Commissioner Lawson?
Here.
Commissioner Walker?
Here.
Chairman Chadwick?
Here. Would you please join me in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Have public comments. If you wish to address the commission, please approach the lectern and state your name and address.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman. Judy Jones, 235 North 8 Mile, CAPIBLE, Wyoming. Thank you for allowing me this time to speak tonight. I'll try to be brief, but I can't say just how long I'll need to say what's on my mind. I want to thank you for the return of the lectern, Matt. That was very, very good for you and good for us. Thank you. Bill Knight, congratulations on moving up in the world, and I wish you all the luck in your new endeavors. And welcome aboard. And thanks, Heather. Anyway, what I wanted to talk to you tonight, and that's kind of the reason I showed up at your work session this afternoon, is I've been kind of paying attention to all our little economic development stuff. And it's been kind of confusing for me for a lot of things. Like today, you guys were talking to Economic Development Joint Powers Board. And Edwards, is that his name, Bill Edwards?
Yes.
And the gal, and they're from CAPIBLE. Now, is that the same board, or is it two different entities?
They're two different entities.
Okay, and what's the difference between the two?
The Economic Development Joint Powers Board is the board formed by both the city and county.
Okay.
And CADA, and of course that Joint Powers Board is a public entity, where CADA is a private entity.
Okay. Thank you very much. I wanted to say that Wyoming Economic Development Alliance, Casper Economics Development Alliance, Wyoming Business Alliance, Tour 23, in fact, let's start with that one. I found online their reports for all three of the 23 counties. I think you guys can find them too. But anyway, when they did these, I attended the one we had in Natrona County. And there was, and I can tell you from experience, Forrest, you were there too. I think Bill Edwards was there too. Along with Drew Perkins and several other of our officials. But there was 71 people in attendance and myself. And when they start talking about their goals and our goals, and when you start going through all the 20 counties, it's like a cutout. All the counties are on board with exactly almost the same thing. And I kind of find that odd that people in, say, Washakie County would be saying exactly what we're saying supposedly here. So I kind of feel like that was a little bit of a predetermined outcome. And then one of the gals, when you were there with us, was saying that she wanted to have something addressed in the Wyoming statutes. And I believe it was 16-06. And that has to pertain to the construction laws in our state laws. And she was pretty adamant about wanting to change the state laws. So I kind of think that when these guys were doing their thing, I don't like the idea of somebody addressing my state laws without public input. So I kind of felt like, because there wasn't very many landowners, there was a lot of developers, there was a lot of real estate.
That was not a forum to do that. She's just making a comment.
Well, she was being kind of very sly about it. Because she was kind of saying it under her breath, we need to address 16-06, but she never gave the last 3 digits to let you know exactly what section that is. Do you know by chance?
I have no idea.
Okay.
That was, I don't know if you saw that it was broke into separate groups.
Yeah, that's part of the process. It's called visioning meetings. And I don't know, I've given you guys a couple books on the Agenda 21, that's how it works. They break you up into little groups. They always make sure they have one of their little buddies in that little group that all leads you to a certain outcome. I didn't see anything in these 23 counties that was any different than the county before or the county after. And the meetings, they're just, it's almost ridiculous. 29 people attend, 31 people attend, and they're making decisions for thousands of people. So I kind of find that a little odd myself, but anyway, we'll go on. Wyoming Business Alliance, the Tour 23 Downtown Development Association. The point I'm trying to make is we feed all these guys through our Wyoming Business Council, and money, correct me if I'm wrong.
No. The Wyoming Business Alliance gets no funds from the Wyoming Business Council.
Okay.
The Wyoming Business Alliance is an entity in and of itself. And
Right.
that's who sponsors that Tour
Businesses
23.
give them money to do their thing and all of that.
That comes from private funds.
Okay. Now, when we get applied for, say like today, you guys are doing a grant for out there at the rail park. How much was that?
No, that was not for the rail park. That was for Fab Tech.
Okay.
That's
How
what
come we
the other
couldn't-
businesses out there. And there's a number of different businesses.
Yeah, I think you said it was 18 or something. Is there no way they can afford to do this on their own? I mean, the point I'm trying to make with that is we're $18 trillion in debt, and we're applying for these business loans from everything from COVID on, and the real numbers on that are astonishing in itself. It's $11.98 million that's gonna go in up there for COVID on between the biathlon and the new deal with the pretense that it's gonna be $7 million back to the county. But nobody can be a firm predictor on when that money is coming back. What I'm saying is that what I'd like you to do, and I know you're probably gonna deny this, but I'd like you to write a letter to the Wyoming Business Council, because you know they're questioning about these big loans that are going out to private developers for roads and stuff, and they want to see that money come back. I'd like to see it come back as well. You know, what if a mom and pop wants to open up a business? There's not gonna be, that money's not gonna be there forever, ever. I mean, look at our oil, it just dropped below $50 a barrel. So I don't know if it's a rush to get all these loans and money, and frankly, I don't think it's the county's business to be in development. I think that's developers and private sector that should be doing that. And most of these guys are pretty well off. So they're leveraging my tax dollar, you know, to make money for themselves, because they get paid right away. But we're left still holding the bag for another 10, 20, who knows? What if we go tits up altogether this time? Look at what we're gonna be holding on to. And what I would ask you is that you write a letter in support of them returning that fund with a small interest, so that the money keeps regenerating itself. Because I know we're not gonna get rid of the business council.
Well,
It's
and
here.
what you're talking about is Recapture,
Yes,
which is a very, very much a real component of most of these. I don't know, I don't
well, what
recall
happens
what the
though, when
recapture on
business
this
goes
was.
flat, they borrow that money.
No,
And they
no,
split, they don't have to pay it back. I've read it before, trust me.
but,
We're getting a
But-
little confused.
yeah, they are simply the entity that came to the Economic Development Joint Powers Board requesting that the support, the financial support. That's what local government does, is infrastructure.
Correct, and we've dumped, what, $9 million out there already? How much have we recaptured of that money?
9 million into what?
Total for like the fiber optic land, over the years, I think it's been out there, what, now 7 or 8 years at least?
But we're talking apples and oranges. This is Fab Tech. You're talking 6 Mile and the Casper Creek.
No, I'm talking about the airport there. Right next door to the airport.
Well, one's east,
That's
one's
where
west.
the rail hub
They're
is.
not one entity.
It's a different deal.
Are they
Two
different
different-
places? I'll have to go
Absolutely.
back out there, because I haven't been
Yes.
out there in a long time. But that's what I was asking, is if you guys would write a letter in support, because I talked to a lot of citizens. In fact, I spoke with Campaign for Liberty, and I spoke at their last month's meeting about this recapturing of these funds. The money's not always gonna be there, guys. And I think we're just going so fast, you know, plazas and, you know, COVID on, and it's, the money's pouring out, but it's not pouring in. And, you know, with the government being in debt like it is, why do we keep adding to it? I mean, it's just senseless. And unless we really start pumping in people in this town, we're up with that stuck on our tax rolls. And I just read where they're trying to figure out a way to raise our property taxes.
You do know that this is, that these are state dollars and not federal dollars.
They're still my tax dollars, honey, because it still goes to the state. It's all the same pot. You can break it
But
off
you
into
referred to
sections
it
wherever you
coming,
want to.
that we're adding to the $18 trillion debt, and we're certainly not with this. These are state dollars.
It's still taxpayers' money, whether it's mine here or somebody's in California. When you're taking state dollars or federal dollars, it's all the same pot. And I see this stuff being favored for these developers and stuff, and mom and pop businesses can't get off the ground with it. You know, and the loan money goes out and the borrowing goes out for infrastructure. You guys aren't getting a return on this stuff for 20 years, if at all. And I want to see you write a letter in support of recapture of these monies that are being put out. I know Mr. Tyler is against it. Well, you know, tough. The man makes good money. He can afford to pay for his own road. And I see that happening with a couple other things that are going on too. But anyway, that's pretty much all I had. And when we do use these little entities that are not governmental people like CADA, they get quite a bit of money. They got, what, $9 million from the year 1987 to 2011, and I can't really think of anything they've produced or done. I mean, I looked through their web pages. Now, everybody's going to brag about their accomplishments, right? You would think you would find them somewhere on their page. Well, we had a hand in this, or we did this, or we did that. They're not there. And I have a problem with them being in the city budget. And I'm going to have a bigger problem if they become part of our budget. They're not an elected board. They don't have to tell us where their salaries are. I couldn't find anything on what they make, what they're paying themselves. You know, don't you find this stuff kind of unsettling that, you know, you're doling out $1.5 million to these guys and you can't even say how much their salaries are or where you can find them, or the public doesn't know where it is? And I'm an avid researcher, guys. You know that. I dig deep. And I couldn't find where anybody makes anything. It just goes blank. It's a blank spot for salary, blank. Why wouldn't I be entitled to know that? If you're giving my tax dollars to these guys, I want to know. So that's all I have. That's all I ask is that you write a letter in support of recapture. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment?